On this episode, we take a listener's suggestion to discuss some unique Thai games.
So if you're curious what types of games are played in Thailand, from playgrounds to gambling dens to board game cafes, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, this be the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand on a vacation in 2001 and decided that the chaos of Sukhumvit was more exciting than the taupe uniformity of McLeod Trail, and I ain't been back since.
I like the taupe reference. I don't hear that word too often.
Yeah, right. Just sort of means it's a cousin of beige, and both
Right.
mean boring.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 21 years ago. Fell in love with telling Thai people that I don't like mama noodles and then looking at the shocked look on their faces. So I never left.
Wait, you don't like those types of noodles, or you don't like specifically mama noodles?
Well, the bottom line is I like them fine. I just like how shocked Thai people are when I tell them that I don't like them. Listeners, mama noodles is just a brand of ramen, like quick cooking, like boiled noodles that Thai people, I feel like Thai women in particular, are obsessed with mama noodles.
In Canada, we call them Ichiban noodles because they come from Ichiban in Japan.
I see. Well, Thai people love them, and so if you really want to shock them, tell them like you don't like them.
Right, you'll be deported.
They'll be utterly shocked. We want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our ad-free regular show a day early, emails with behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world, and various other goodies. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about Greg's son losing his first tooth and what the Thai belief is around baby teeth. Hint, the tooth fairy isn't a thing in Thailand. How Greg might just escape the COVID noose that's slowly tightening around him, and the controversy over giant campaign signs blocking the sidewalks in Bangkok, and how it might very well be the issue that decides the next governor. To learn how to become a patron, click the support button at the top of our website.
Right, and as always, if you have something to say or a show idea or a joke or just want to say hi, head to bangkokpodcast.com and click the little microphone button at the bottom right. Leave us a voicemail that we will play on the show. And speaking of that, on this episode, we are taking a cue from a listener named Joe Pilato, who left us a voicemail, as I just laid out, and suggested this show idea.
Hey, my name is Joe. I live in New York. I've been to Thailand a couple times, been listening to the podcast for a couple years now. I'm really into games. I was hoping you guys could do a podcast about games that get played there. Whether that's worldwide games that are popular there that are unexpected, or I guess expected as well. But especially regional games that people elsewhere would never have heard of, whether that's sports or kids games or games they play in gym class or drinking games, whatever, any kind of games. And I'll listen out for that. Thanks a bunch.
So thanks for that, Joe. And guess what? You get the honor of being the first listener to ever have your voice played in the opening part of the show. Isn't that cool?
Very cool.
T-shirt or medal or something like that?
Legend.
All right. Legend Joe Pilato. Anyway, so we thought that it was a great idea and one that we hadn't thought of. So we asked around a little bit, and I posted the question on Twitter, and we got some pretty interesting responses, which I think cover all of Joe's suggested gaming sectors, from children's games to drinking games to board games. So, Ed, what's your take on this? What's your gaming experience in Thailand, your non-video gaming experience in Thailand?
Well, it's interesting because obviously I've been here a long time, and I have been aware of these uniquely Thai games, whether they just an old girlfriend who played a card game that was definitely not Western, or the fact that I know that a lot of motorcycle guys or taxi guys play like a Thai version of chess. So I've been kind of aware of this world of Thai gaming, but to be honest, I've never played the games. So
Yeah.
I'm vaguely aware of them, but I don't, to be honest, I can't, like when you mentioned this topic, I was trying to think like, there's got to be at least one Thai game that I know how to play, but there's not.
Right.
So, I've seen a ton of people play takraw, but I've never actually even tried to play.
I can't count how many bones would immediately crack and probably leave my body if I tried to play takraw. I've seen takraw. I've seen the motorcycle guys at the motorcycle wins. They're playing their chess game. I've seen that a million times, but I never really wondered about it. So I think this was a great idea because it's just something I've never thought about doing a show on.
Good idea. Good idea for a show.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So what I did was I sort of looked around and I asked some friends and I asked my wife and I asked Twitter and I got a list of, let's see, 5, 6, 7 games here that we're just going to go through and talk about it. I'm going to describe how they're played and, discuss if that we think that'll be fun or if we're ever going to play it or how they differ from the Western version because some of these are sort of derivatives. But what do you think of that, Ed? I'll just start in with a list.
I'm game, man. I'm familiar with some of them, so I'll add commentary where I can. But I'm hoping to learn something myself.
Yeah, all right. Well, the first one, this is a kid's game that I thought was really cute and simple, but would probably be very fun to play. And I had to ask my wife. My friend Oakley gave me this one in Thai, and I asked my wife what it was. And the game in Thai is called Jamji Makua Pra. And it's played when kids get down on the ground and each of them puts out 1 or 2 hands. Let's say one hand on the ground with their fingers spread apart, right?
Okay.
So you got 5 fingers on the ground.
Gotcha.
And basically what they do then is the one leader of the game, they go around and they sing a song. And on every syllable, they touch someone's finger. So they move around touching everyone's finger.
But by syllable.
Yeah, by syllable. And when they get to the end of the song, the person's finger they're touching gets eliminated. So they have to take that finger out of play. So they fold that finger under their, right?
Okay.
And then they do it again.
Gotcha.
And it goes around and around until the last person has like the one remaining finger left, and that's the champion.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And I thought it was super charming. So I'm going to play a clip really quickly of this video that our listener Jack sent to us. And this is the song that they sing when they count the fingers around a circle.
So wait, is it the same song every time? Like there's a specific song for this game, or you could sing any song you want?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm unsure. But in this particular video, this was a song. But I played it for my wife, and she knew the song. She started singing along with it from when she was a little girl.
Oh, funny. That's great.
Yeah. So and that's a good question, though, Ed. We should also say that there's probably a million derivatives and rules that we're leaving out here or just don't know about. But
well, sounds like that game sounds kind of like musical chairs, but it's with syllables.
Yeah.
There's one finger left. There's like one finger left, right?
Yeah. But it's a cute game, and it would probably be deceptively fun because you see your friend coming around and you realize, oh, they're getting to the end of the song. Am I going to be the finger that's going to go? So that's kind of cute.
Sure.
Yeah, and the next one was very, very simple. It's called Mak Gep. And it's basically, you know how jacks are played?
No, I do not.
You don't know the game jacks?
Well, explain it to me. I might, in Ohio, we might call it something else.
Yeah, you'll probably call it Kujima Bonkers or something like that with your Midwestern charm. But we have the jacks are like, there's like a little metal X on the ground.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now I'm with you. Okay.
Right.
Now I'm with you.
And you bounce the ball and then you pick up a jack. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Now I'm with you. Okay. Yeah. I think we do call it jacks. It's been so long since I thought about that. That to me, that game strikes me as a very old game. Like that really wasn't big when I was a kid. It was more like a 1950s or 40s. That's how I think of that game.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the background, you see a kid running by with a stick and a hoop. Rolling it on the ground or something.
It's like a Great Depression game or something.
Yeah, totally. But there's a similar game in Thailand, except it's called Mak Gep. And instead of a rubber ball, it's played with a lime and some sticks on the ground. So
and how do you? But you bounce the line?
No, you don't bounce the lime. You just throw it up.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I didn't know limes could bounce.
But so it's sort of like a take on jacks. So you've got a lime, which is very Thai, Manao, and You just throw it up in the air and grab as many sticks as you can, and the person who grabs the sticks in the fewest amount of tries wins.
Gotcha. You know, this, I see a future, you know, it's so hard for us to come up with new show ideas. I see in season 12 a PhD in game originations is gonna give us the history of jacks, and whether maybe it comes from some old Sanskrit Indian game, and so that the Thai version might be more original than our version. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe the Thai game is just a copy of the Western game. I don't know.
Right. Maybe the Western Jacks is just some poor ass kid saw like his Asian.
Maybe he had no limes. Maybe he had no limes.
Yeah. What am I gonna do? I got a rubber ball, but no limes. Let's adapt. So the next one is something that we mentioned already. It's the Thai chess. And
right.
This one is really interesting. Now, the name of the Thai chess game is called Makruk.
Okay.
I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but I think it's Makruk or something like that. Makruk. And it's basically the same board and the same looking pieces as the Western chess game.
Right.
But I'm going to walk through the differences here. So instead of the pawn row starting out like right in front of the other pieces,
right,
they start out on the third row. So there's the first row with a king and queen, then there's an empty row, and then there's a row of pawns.
That's a pretty big difference. Yeah, right. Yeah. Sure.
So in Makruk, the queen can only move one space diagonally.
Oh, instead of unlimited. Okay.
Right. The bishop moves one space forward or one space diagonally.
Oh, okay. So normally, obviously, it cannot move forward. Okay. So
that's right.
Okay.
That's right. The knight in chess can move 2 and 1 or 1 and 2.
Right.
Right. But the knight in Makruk can move only 2 and 1.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Right. And the king can move one space in any direction. It's the same as chess.
Wow. Okay. So I've never played under the Thai rules, and I'm not even a big chess player in the regular Western rules. But I had a friend back in the day who was an American chess player, and he got kind of fascinated by Thai chess, and then immediately frustrated. So he was like, "Oh wow, they're playing a variation of chess," and I don't remember the specific differences, but there was a period of a few days where he was like sitting down with motorbike guys and he's learning the rules, and he was really into the fact that, okay, I just have to modify these rules, but I'm a good chess player, I'll figure this out. But then after a few days, he's like, I can't deal with it. It's like it must just, imagine if you've been playing chess for your life, and then all of a sudden you change the rules. That must mess with you. Like he couldn't deal with it after a few days.
It's the same this sounds probably like a way of a tangent, but it was like when I tried to learn Gaelic one time. Like it uses the same alphabet, but the F letter is pronounced like an S.
Oh, right.
It's like everything is different, and it's just really easy to get frustrated.
You can't reprogram.
Right. But check this out. So the pawn piece in Makruk is called bia, meaning cowrie shell, like a little seashell, which is probably what it was originally played with.
Right.
The queen is called the met, meaning seed.
Okay.
Okay, the bishop is called the kon, meaning a nobleman.
Okay.
The knight is called a ma, meaning horse.
Okay.
The rook is called a rua, meaning boat.
Huh.
And the king is called kun, meaning a feudal lord or a title holder.
Okay, well, this clearly, obviously, is based on chess. So, it's not like, I don't think this version came first. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah.
Well, chess is one of the oldest games in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Dude, this is kind of random, but it just dawned on me that I don't see many Thai people playing Go.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've never seen it playing here. Now, granted, it's not like I hang out in board game cafes much these days or anything.
Well, I'm sure there must be. There must be like a Thai Go club, but considering it's an Asian game, and I think it's originated in China or maybe Japan or something like that. Don't kill me if I get it wrong. But I guess that's never caught on that much amongst Thai people. At least it's definitely not on the street or around, right?
Right. Well, I'll tell you what though, that would be another merit badge. Man, if you could sit down with a bunch of motorcycle taxi drivers and get them to teach you how to play Makruk.
Oh no.
My God.
Seriously, we need to do another merit badge show, because if you can actually hang and play Thai chess. Like I think that's a pretty big deal.
That's a serious street cred, check mark there. Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's get into the big daddy then. This is the one that everyone knows, and this is takraw.
Very cool game. As most Westerners would relate, at least people of my generation, it just reminds me of hacky sack.
Oh, really? It reminds me of volleyball.
Well, I mean, it is like it is hacky sack volleyball. So when I was in college, a big thing was to so you have this like little leather ball, and you just pass it around with your feet.
Could you ever do that? I could never do it.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm not saying I was really good, but yeah, it was just a thing among me and my buddies and friends. We would just hang out, and I don't even know where it came from in the States or how we started doing it, but we played a lot of hacky sack back then.
Yeah. So it's super popular when I was in high school. All the cool kids did it, but I could never do it.
Yeah, it's basically takraw is basically hacky sack volleyball.
Right. You have a net in the middle, and you have to kick the ball back and forth, but you can't use your hands or your arms. I don't think anything below your shoulder. I don't think you can.
That's right, and it's quite difficult. Like the hacky sack is kind of like a little leather ball that's a little bit soft, so it can kind of land on your foot, and you can kind of catch it. But the takraw ball is like a bamboo or straw ball,
like wicker or something.
Yeah, it's like wicker. Yeah. That's right, and I'm sure those guys could catch it, but it's much more bouncy and it's much harder than hacky sack.
Yeah, and I'll tell you go to any park in Bangkok sort of towards the afternoon, towards sunset there, and you're going to see some incredible games being played by these like just dudes who are doing these flips and kicks and wild things over the net. It's crazy to watch. There's one variation of takraw that I always find interesting, and it doesn't seem to be, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an actual game or not, but they hang like a net. Usually, like where I live, there's a park that has the bridge going over it. So they hang it from the bottom of the bridge. So it's like 8 or 10 meters up.
Sure, I've seen that, right.
Right. And it's like a basket, and it's got 4 holes on each, like 1 hole on each side, like northeast, southwest.
Right.
And then the goal is to kick the ball up into one of these holes.
That's
and the thing is really high.
Yeah.
So it's like a derivative of takraw.
Well, takraw is super popular here. There's no doubt.
It's they played in the Asian Games, right? It's
right. That's right.
Asian Games.
That's right.
The next one is interesting. The next one was suggested by a guy on Twitter named Tim Boer, who we've talked about before. He lives up in Isan, and he suggested the sport of rhinoceros beetle fighting.
It's funny. I recently saw something in the news about this, or a clip of it. Yeah, and I've seen it before. It's obviously animal fighting is unfortunately a sport in many countries, whether it's cockfighting or dog fighting. It's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty harsh. But
right.
I suppose with beetles, maybe it's not as bad.
Yeah, I guess so. So I read this. I found this story on Al Jazeera that we'll link to all these things in our show notes. But they're talking about it, and basically it only happens once a year in northern Thailand, like this beetle fighting tournaments. And basically, it says locals capture the rhinoceros beetles in the jungle during the beetle mating season in September. An average beetle can be sold for about 50 baht, but champion caliber insects can go for as much as 3,000 baht.
Wow.
The owners bring their beetles to the small arenas where the fighting takes place. They match the beetles by size and character, and when 2 similar beetles are found, bets are placed and the competitors will head into the fighting stage. A log of wood crafted with holes wherein a female pheromone-secreting beetle is trapped. The 2 male beetles are thus motivated to fight over the female beetle. The winner is kept as the stud of the match. The loser is put back into the jungle.
Okay, that's good. At least the loser isn't like sacrificed, isn't killed in battle,
roasted and put into a stew or something.
How do they decide who wins? If the winning beetle doesn't kill the loser, like how do they decide who wins or loses?
That's a good point. I guess you get pushed off the tree trunk, the little branch or something.
Maybe, I don't know. And what happens to the poor female beetle they have trapped inside the log?
It's like, hey, hello. I mean, that guy won my heart.
He's like the winning beetle's like, I won. Hello.
Yeah, hello. Where's my prize? Where is she? So anyway, that's not really a sport. It's more like a gambling pastime. But you're right, Ed. It is much less vicious than cockfighting, where you don't have the talons of one chicken ripping out the heart of another one.
Right. But I like this. This strikes me. This whole idea of beetle fighting. There's something about it that it does ring as something that Thai people would do. Like there's something about it. I'm like, yeah, I could see that. I could totally see Thai people doing that.
So the next game is called Bukdeng, and it's a card game that I have had friends who play this game before, but no one's ever really explained it to me. So I had to look up the rules. So I'm going to walk through the rules here really quickly, but and I'm probably going to miss a lot of the subtlety and nuance out of them. There are probably a lot of rules I'm going to go over, but this is basically how it works. So each game is fairly short, lasting several seconds to a couple of minutes. Each player, except the dealer, places a bet using cash, chips, or small objects like wrapped candy, and places that bet on the table in front of him or herself. Each player plays versus the dealer only and is not competing with fellow players. The dealer gives each player 2 cards face down. The hand's numerical score is called a dam and is determined simply by the ones digit of the sum of his 2 cards.
Okay, well, I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second. This is it.
Yeah.
This is the game that my ex-girlfriend used to play with her friends.
This is it, is it?
This is it, yeah. Because I remember
Okay.
I did actually play it a couple times and learn these rules, but it was a long time ago. Anyway, go ahead. So yeah, so this is a popular game, no doubt.
Yeah. So the dam is determined by the ones digit of the sum of the cards. For example, a hand consisting of a 3 and a 2 has a value of 5 dam, hot dam. Likewise, a hand consisting of 7 and 8 has a value of hot damn 2 because the sum, 15, has a ones digit of 5. All right. Then once that happens, you throw in a bunch of multipliers based on the relationship between the cards in your hand.
Right.
And then you see which one has the upper hand, literally, compared with the dealer. And I won't go into all the weeds about this, but that's basically how it works.
This is a popular game to gamble with because
yes.
because my ex-girlfriend, it was like her and her friends would always play for money, and it wasn't really like a lot of money, but they were very competitive about it. It'd be like, she'd be like, I lost 200 baht in this game, and
Yeah.
It's so it's a common gambling thing. Okay. So now I know what that game is called because it was just stuck.
Dude.
It was stuck in my distant memory.
It's so common because like every once in a while, like, my wife and I have a very strong relationship. We also realize that we each have to have fun with our friends sometimes. So
Sure.
every once in a while she'll have like, she's going out with her friends and she'll go to a hotel or something with a bunch of friends and she'll send me
Girls' night out.
That's right. Girls' night out. And she'll send me pictures of them playing, card games late into the night. And I can always tell when they're going to play because the day she leaves, I notice that my change jar is empty.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. And there's one more game I want to go over, and this one is quite interesting. It's called Len Saba.
Okay.
And the Saba is a seed from a tree, and it's basically the same shape and size as a hockey puck.
Wow.
So
that's pretty big.
Yeah. So Ed, if you and I were playing Saba, Len Saba together, this is how it would work. You would sit in a chair and you would put your Saba on the ground in front of you, for the flat side facing me.
Okay.
Okay. So then what I would do was I would stand about 3 meters back and I would take turns throwing my Saba at your Saba and try to knock it over.
Ah, I see.
But there's a trick. The first round I use the Saba laying on the top of my foot and then I like kick it towards your Saba.
Oh, okay.
The second round I put my Saba in between my calves. And then I have to sort of like,
okay, that's weird. Okay, that's pretty weird. Okay.
Yeah. And then the third round, I put the Saba in between my knees.
Okay.
And I have to like hurl it at your Saba and try to knock it over.
Now, I'm just curious. Are you just making this up just to get someone to embarrass themselves? Like maybe someone will just try to do this and then you'll just be trolling them. Like, I just made this up.
It's like the time I tricked an online American friend years and years and years ago told her that Boxing Day in Canada was when everyone put on these big soft gloves and actually had boxing matches, and she believed me. Anyway, it's a different story.
That's great.
But this apparently is a Mon game.
Okay.
The ethnic group of the Mon. I have this page here where it shows a bunch of pictures of students playing it. So it seems like a popular game to play in schools.
It's kind of hard to picture, so I might have to check that out.
Yeah, and also you can put the sub between your toes and throw it from your toes as well. So
wild. That does, that is pretty exotic. That's all I'm going to say.
And it does show this sort of great Thai sense of ingenuity, right? Like limes and a stick,
right?
A bunch of sticks. There's your game.
Right?
A tree seed. There's your game.
A giant tree seed.
Right. In Canada, we're like, I want my game specially designed and engineered. So that's the main games. And since both Ed and I are two giant nerds, well, I'm a giant nerd, and Ed, you're pretty much cooler than me, but you're still kind of nerdy. We couldn't do a show on gaming without checking in to see what's up in the world of board games and role-playing games.
Sure.
So it just so happens that a good friend of mine named JS owns and operates a game shop in Chiang Mai called Golden Goblin Games. So I gave him a call this afternoon to see what's popular in his store. So let's check in on that conversation that I had with my friend JS. All right, well, we are on the line with my old work buddy JS, who is living in Chiang Mai right now, and he is the owner and operator, along with his lovely wife, of Golden Goblin Games, which I was lucky enough to visit a few months back. JS, welcome to the show, man.
Hi, Greg. Welcome.
Good to chat to you, and thanks for coming on. So we're doing the show about games in Thailand, and I like drinking games and playground games and card games and board games. So I figured I'd talk to one of the experts really quickly. Just tell me a bit about Golden Goblin Games. What do you got going on there?
Right. So we're based in Chiang Mai. We're a shop and we're selling board games, all type of tabletop games. So games that don't require a screen to play. We've got card games like Magic the Gathering, miniatures game like Warhammer, and all even like role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. So all the classics.
Right. So I was up in Chiang Mai a few months ago with my family, and we stopped by your store to say hi, and we bought a really fun card game called Exploding Kittens, and bought some paint for a Warhammer model that my son and I got into, and now it's kind of become an obsession. I've got 3 more sitting behind me.
That's good.
And I've actually ordered more paint from your website, so you can order from your store's website, which is good too. So that was fun.
Right. Yeah.
So what kind of games do Thai people play a lot? I mean, we've all seen these places where people gather around playing board games or card games, but what's really popular for your customers?
I mean, for Thai customers, they really like party games, and when we talk about party games, they're kind of like board games that play with large group of people that are short to play and that are fun to play. So you're talking about Exploding Kitten is a good example. So it's a card game for about like 5 players. And it's a lot of like take that. So like, I don't want to get the bomb and explode and die and be out of the game. So I'm playing this card, and it's you draw 2 cards, you have more chance of exploding. It's a kind of a take that game.
Yeah.
And other party games that Thai people like to play, there's like Werewolf. It's a hidden role game. So people get a secret card at the beginning of the game. So I might be a simple villager. You might be a werewolf. Somebody else might be the witch who can like look at other people's identity. And it's a bluffing game and deduction game. You try to guess like who's the evil werewolf within the group of players.
Right.
So these are the games that Thai people really like or get introduced into the world of board game. Because for Thai people, I mean, they will. It's the opposite, I think, of us. Like for Westerners, where we, as a kid, like played some board games and then discovered computer games. I mean, at my age,
right?
But
yeah.
Thai people like start with computer games, and then they're at the age of 15, 16. Like they discover like, oh, you can actually play games without the screen. There's like some board games. So it's really the opposite. The opposite way.
That's great. That's super great. I hope my son follows that trajectory, because right now he's all about the screens, right? So like when you talk about these subcultures like Magic the Gathering or Warhammer or Dungeons and Dragons, are they really big in Thailand as well?
Yeah, they're quite big. They're becoming more and more popular. I mean, they are expensive hobbies, so they're not like affordable to like everybody. People that play Warhammer, you need to invest a good 10,000 baht to have like a proper army. If you play Magic the Gathering as like competitively as well, you will have to invest quite a big amount of money.
Right. Yeah, the Warhammer models that we bought, I mean, they can be 3,000 baht for like a plastic model that you have to glue together and paint. So it's a bit of a barrier to entry.
Yeah, and some people are a bit like stunned. They look at the box and they think they're going to buy like a pre-painted model that they can put on shelf. No, it's just all little pieces you have to assemble yourself, and it's sometimes you have to explain to customers, yeah, that's part of the fun actually, like to build a model and paint it. And
that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's like it's almost like games have gone old school, whereas like back in the day when our grandparents were around, like your game, you had to make a game. You had to come out, like you had a couple of sticks and a ball, or you had a rope or something like that, and you had to build this thing so you and your friends could play it. So it's kind of like that now, right? Where you buy the raw materials and you got to build it.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
So when are you seeing like the pandemic where people playing more and more? Did the exposure, the awareness of board games and role playing games expand when people were stuck inside?
Well, when the pandemic started, we did see a big spike in sales. But people were like, "Oh, I'm going to be stuck home for I don't know how many months until they create a vaccine." So we got a lot of orders. People like, I'm ordering paint. I'm going to be like just painting models at home, or I'm going to be playing board games with my wife or with my kids. So I think it helped. It helped the industry. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I just wanted to check in with you real quick and see what you thought of this. So it's cool that Thai players and people in Thailand are learning the old school way of playing the board games and the physical games instead of just sitting like a zombie in front of the screen, which I'm guilty of too.
we all are, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool to hear, man. So it's a good active scene. I'm sure there are stores like yours in Bangkok here as well, but goldengoblingames.com, that's your website online. And listeners, if you want to check out what they got, you can order really easily from them too. I got a whole bunch of paint sitting here that is just if I don't buy another model, I guess it's going to go to waste. So it's almost my duty to buy more models.
It is.
All right, JS. Thanks, man. Continued success. And maybe I hope to get up to Chiang Mai one time. Maybe we'll go old school and play a game of Risk with some beers or something like that and spend the, the entire evening fighting each other.
That'd be great. Thanks for the call, Greg.
All right. Take care, man.
Bye.
Bye.
Man, I see those board game cafes around and I always want to stop in. I just haven't hung out there. But yeah, there's a couple here in Bangkok, right?
Yeah, there is. I don't know where. I mean, there used to be one down at Mahatun Plaza, but then I think it closed. Who knows what's open now after COVID? But I know Golden Goblin Games is still open.
Sure.
But in Bangkok, yeah, I've seen them. I've never really gone in. I mean, when you go in, you've got to have 2 or 3 hours ready, right? Like you can't just go in for a quick card game or something.
That's right.
Yeah,
but it's glad. I'm glad to hear that Thai people are into those games, though.
Yeah, and it's funny what JS said about how our generation, my generation, your generation, his generation, we graduated from board games to video games, but now the younger generation in Thailand and I'm sure other places are going the other way. They started with video games and they're going into board games.
That's cool, though. It's kind of like going from CDs or streaming back to vinyl. You got to like it.
That's right. So D&D nerds are now the hipster music aficionados.
I love it.
Yeah, thanks, JS, for coming on the show and chatting with me. So yeah, everyone, if listeners, if you're a fan of these kind of games, then check out goldengoblingames.com. It's a good store. All right, well, thanks, Joe. That was our wrap up of games, and we hope we covered some good ones. There's always new stuff to learn, and yeah, man, I'm going to take this seriously. I think sitting down with a motorcycle win and asking them to teach you how to play Makruk would be
if you could do that
of an afternoon.
If you can do that, that's a high level merit badge.
Totally, yeah. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we just have to learn to live with no matter how we feel about it. Now, last time Ed asked me what I thought about people who use the speakers on their phones, so this week it's my turn.
Cool.
Now, Ed, you're a big movie guy.
I am.
You like going to the movie theaters like I do?
I do.
what is your take on the general offerings at the movie theater concession stand in Thailand?
Interesting. It's funny, now that I've been here a long time, I have different opinions. But in the States, for example, it's very rare to be able to buy alcohol like at a concession stand, whereas many, not necessarily all, but a bunch of Thai theaters, you can buy a beer at the concession stand.
Right.
In the States, you generally can't do that. Although there was a kind of an independent cinema where I grew up that was just independently owned, and you actually could, and that was a really big deal. So,
Right.
To be able to do that, I'm a plain popcorn guy. I might not be the best guy to ask. So basically, if I can buy a beer and get plain popcorn, I'm happy. So I would say, for me, I'm happy with the offerings they have, but I don't venture. I know they have other stuff, and sometimes they have like nachos and different stuff, but I'm not too adventurous.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to go with a weak, tepid live with on this, because I'm the opposite way. Back in Canada, when I was going to see a movie, I'd get like the big nachos with the glue consistency cheese, and like a big chili dog, and then a soda and stuff like that. And some chocolates. There's like a big display case of all these different kinds of chocolates.
So you think the options here are worse, are fewer?
Anemic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like you've got like they'll cut up some like 7-Eleven wieners and put them in a little cup with a squirt of ketchup for you, and you might be able to buy a couple of chocolate bars, and popcorn's okay, but there's no like there's not a huge selection. And then of course they have all these tiny little bags of chips which are 80% air,
right?
And those strings of dried fish.
It is true that back home, at least I remember as a kid, there'd be a pretty broad candy selection. And I just, as a kid, I did grow out of that though, Greg. Maybe you haven't grown out of that, but So it's funny. So I'm gonna have to go. For me, I'm definitely a live with, just because I've never had a problem. And I remember just walking. I think I was at Emporium back in the day. This would have been 2000, right? And it's a fairly standard movie theater, a chain kind of thing. And I remember seeing a beer, and I'm like, oh my God, like at a normal movie theater, this is not some kind of like indie hip artsy thing. Like at a regular movie theater, I can get a beer. So that's kind of stuck with me. So I'm gonna have to go with, I'm a solid live with.
All right, I'm a tepid live with. I do have to say though, the first time I ever went to a movie with someone who had a beer was with you, and it threw me off because the movie started and I hear this. I'm like, is that beer? It's drinking beer.
Oh, that's funny. So that might have been. It's funny because not every theater in Bangkok has beer. Not every one. And so for those that didn't have beer, me and my buddies would sometimes bring them in, which you really have to be sneaky about that in the States. But here they just kind of let you do it, or they don't ask to see like what's in that bag.
Yeah, man, I've walked in with like giant backpacks full of food before.
Right.
And no one ever asks.
Yeah, so those might have been cans of beer that I brought in, as possible as what you're remembering. Funny you remember that.
Nice one.
All right, a final thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, BangkokPodcast.com on the web, or simply BangkokPodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Yeah, baby. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can send us a voicemail through our website that we can feature on the show, or even reach out to me directly on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, everyone. Take it easy out there. We'll see you back here next week.
Absolutely.
Just ran out of regular water. Do you want soda water?
Yeah, I prefer soda. Okay. Plain soda. I drink gallons of plain soda, but I just found out that it has salt in it. Yeah. Half a gram of salt per litre. And your daily maximum is 2 grams of salt.
Oh, really?
So it's a litre of it, which would be about 4 of those bottles. Okay.
Let's try to avoid hitting the table.
Yep. And burping after drinking
That's
soda
fine.
water.
I'll put a de-burp filter on. All right. Well, it's been many months since we've had... You want me to start again?